Nutrition. My name's Josh, it's nice to be here. Happy to meet you all. Most of you already know me. Regards to nutrition and this workshop in general and the challenge in general, there's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of stuff to think about. There's a lot of stuff to comprehend. So a big thing we're trying to share with you guys is a set of principles, a set of rules. That way, these rules and principles are going to be the same for all of you, but the nuances of your training and your meal plans and nutrition is going to be unique to what you like and your routines and your schedules. And so remember that there will be a nutrition workshop in 7 days' time, which I prefer to refer to as nutrition intensive because we get to go through those nuances. But at least for today, I'm going to share with you some crucial fundamental principles of nutrition. These things have to be existing in your next 7 days, but where and how and when, not so much. Yeah, you just need to be making sure that you're experiencing and dabbling with these principles. Many of them, to be honest, they're mostly common sense anyway, but we're just going to reinforce the ones that are important. So just remember what you can, but be flexible for the next 7 days. And then next Saturday, ideally, you're all here again. We can go through those finer details of your nutrition. Yeah. So nutrition, we have a bit of a system that we have. We just call it our functional way, holistic way of the SMA nutrition system. And the first principle is eating above your BMR. So there's a lot of words on the screen now. So just focus on the top 2 rows, the big words. Eat above your BMR calculated during your scan. So I'm just going to go back a slide so you're not looking at all the words. Does anyone know what the term BMR is? Not anyone other than Nav. BMR. Basal metabolic rate. Correct. What is our basal metabolic rate?
What it takes to keep you alive?
Yeah. Amount of fuel it takes to keep you alive. Let's check some underpinning knowledge. Who knows what a calorie is? Anyone? Just shoot a hand up in the air if you think you want to tell me what a calorie is. It's all right. I'll tell you if you're wrong or right.
Measurement of energy?
It's a measurement of energy. What's the difference between a calorie and a kilojoule? What was that? Metric versus imperial. So when you look at nutrition labels, when you hear people talk nutrition, we speak in terms of calories. Sometimes you hear the term kilojoules, just like you hear millimeters and inches and other, I don't even follow the imperial, I've just deleted the imperial metric system, yeah? Pounds to kilos. So calories are actually an imperial term, but for some reason we just use it culturally in nutrition. So your BMR is the amount of calories you need to consume to fuel your body. The amount of calories is the energy referral of your food. So calories measure energy. The amount of energy that you burn in a day is measured in calories. The amount of food that you consume is measured in calories. The analogy is like fuel in a vehicle. You need to put fuel in the vehicle, otherwise it doesn't run. If you just turn the car on and you let it sit in the driveway for 6 hours, it just idles for 6 hours. In theory, if you laid in bed all day, you would idle for 24 hours. And so when you did your body scan in the bottom right of your sheet, it would have had a little number that says your BMR. And it would have had a number, it would have been said like 1,400 calories or 1,200 calories. And many of you would be like, oh, that's how much I should be eating. That's in theory how much you should be eating if you just did nothing all day. And then we factor in your total daily energy expenditure. So we're looking at the little text now. The top line here is TDEE, total daily energy expenditure. As coaches, we're trying to figure out how hard you're driving your vehicle. So on days that you drive, you might be towing things, you might be dropping people off. Those days you burn more fuel. So those days that you're going to the gym, doing more laborsome, you're being more encumbered throughout the day, that means you're most likely doing more exercise, more output, therefore burning more calories. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to figure out what is your BMR plus all the other stuff that happens in your day. And so I'm just going to touch on these because they're really not overly relevant. It's just fun details to know. So we're factoring in, so your basal metabolic rate is what the makeup of your body is. It's basically an equation based on your height, your age, your sex, your lean muscle mass, genetics and hormones. It takes in these factors to figure out what your total output is, and then we add it to your NEAT, non-exercise activity thermogenesis. So it's just extra calories burnt from being mildly active throughout the day, and then you've got your actual EAT, your exercise activity thermogenesis, which is the calories burnt through actual exercise. And then your TEF, your thermic effective food. Just like a plane takes a certain amount of food just to get it in the air, just like our bodies just need to keep going, and everything we do to digest food also costs us energy. But effectively, we have what our body needs plus what we do. And that equates to a certain amount of calories, and we're generally trying to eat either that amount to get our body calibrated to eating that amount of food, or we eat more than that amount so we can see our body increase, ideally in muscle mass, or we eat less than that amount, which ideally sees our body see a reduction in body fat. Now, the reason we put this first is because most people, when they think the term calorie deficit, which is a very common term, we instinctively default to just eating less food, which is the habit we're trying to eliminate first and foremost. So I'm kind of leaning more towards directing people who are interested in fat loss, not you. You just need to eat as much as you physically can all the time. Outside of everyone else, we are trying to get your body used to digesting food very often. Because what happens is, regardless of the calculation, many of you have already spent 3 to 6 months, sometimes years, of just not eating that much, and very often working a lot. And so you have a high output with a low input. And for simple terms, you are metabolically frozen. Your body's just a bit like, ooh, food's a bit, So before we even think about trying to get ourselves into this fat burning furnace or this muscle building maniac, we actually need to make sure that you're just functioning really well and all systems are go, yeah? And the way we do that is by just nurturing the body, nourishing the body, eating for nourishment, eating regularly. Does that make sense? Just getting the choo-choo train going, and then once we've got momentum, then ideally in 7 days' time, then we can focus on the nuances of your exercise, yeah? So it's a long-winded way of most likely you're gonna have to eat more than what you're already eating in order to stimulate fat loss and muscle gain, generally speaking, yeah? Always eat above your BMR. Your basal metabolic rate is in the bottom right of your body scan. We can help find that for you and remind you of that. And you need to be aware of that number, and your goal is to condition your body to consuming that amount of calories plus more on a regular basis. And then ideally, we start having fat loss and muscle gains come a lot easier. Function first is the summary of that slide. Next one is be organized, be proactive. It's very, very simple. If you're already dehydrated, it's too late. Sorry, if you're already thirsty, you're already dehydrated. It's the same like if you're already hungry, to a degree. If you're already hungry, it's kind of too late. What we're trying to do, when I mentioned before, is get the body used to digesting food, is we're trying to set our metabolic clock. Metabolic clock, sleep clock, body clock. We want your body to get used to digesting food so much that it thinks it knows when food's coming. If you go to bed at a regular time, you start getting tired in the lead up to that time. So if we start to regulate, I'm going to make a word up, regularize your breakfast, lunch and dinner, the goal is to get to the point where your body is 30 minutes before your average brekkie time and lunchtime, you're starting to get hungrier, because that means you are burning something. It means you're metabolically active, which encourages you to eat more food, which means you're nourished, you've got all the minerals, the nutrients and the protein and the carbohydrates and the fats to have healthy hormone function, healthy immune function, healthy energy function, and it's that version of you that lifts all the weights and throws all the balls and runs as far as you need to, and it's that version of you that does the really effective training that stimulates fat loss and stimulates muscle gain, yeah? So being proactive means you've just got to sort your shit out before the week starts, yeah? Generally Sunday church. Generally it's meal prep, it doesn't have to be. If you've got the cash flow, you can just outsource it. You can just order your Coles online or Woolies online, and then you can order your meal prep online. However you do it, you need to take your entire nutrition from the spectrum, this side of the slider of chaos and reactive, and you've just got to get it over to proactive and order and organized. It's from that space in which all fat loss, muscle gain, speed, agility, they all emerge out of being organized, yeah? The principle is you got your shit together. Once you have your shit together and you have a level of order, like we talked about with your finances, Brian, because things are in order, you can now have something reliable to measure and track. And only once we have something reliable and measurable to track, we can then help you. Because otherwise, have you heard the term throwing spaghetti in the wall and seeing what sticks? Like, as coaches, we can only give you advice based on assumptions, because it's all he said, she said. Everything is filtered through what you share with us, and we can only do our best based on that. But the moment we have, like, you know, the SMA app with how many sessions you've been doing, or you've been logging your food in MyFitnessPal or on the SMA app, or if it's too complicated, you've just been taking photos and logging it to the coach, or whatever method we've decided to be on top of your food. If you come to us and we say, hey, body scan says this and I've been doing these calories, we can take a quick look at it and be like, boom, 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 it's probably this. But if you can't give us that information, we can still give it a crack, but we'd have to be like, well, I trained this one person who once we did this, and I reckon based on intuition experience, you know, we have to kind of theorize work on it. And we can still get there, but it just makes things a little bit harder. And so you're trying to, again, be organized and have everything order, and then that you can measure and track it so that it's easy to manage, yeah? Effectively, we're just trying to take things seriously this time. So as an example, we've talked about BMR, we threw some numbers out, and they're quite irrelevant until you start to have an idea of what these actual foods start to look like. So in terms of numbers, generally speaking, males, if you are a male and you have more of a muscle gain goal, you're more likely going to be around the 2,800 mark. Just remember the number, because the next slide we have these examples of what these numbers are. So males around muscle gain are more likely going to be around the 2,800, very commonly 3,000. Me personally, I'm like 3,200 to 3,000. You would need to be at like 3,500, but you're going to have to get used to eating 2,800, 2,900. Does that make sense? And so if you're more around wanting to get into a fat loss phase, it's kind of what we talked about the other day, is you're closer to the 2,000 calorie mark. Yeah, so if you are more fat loss orientated, just memorize 2,000 for a moment. If you're more muscle gain orientated, just memorize more 2,800 for a moment. That's where you're going to be existing. For the women, generally, women have slightly smaller metabolisms, generally less muscle mass, generally less testosterone. And so women are generally going to be around the 1,500 mark for fat loss. Now, we say that, but there are times that even though you shouldn't be going as low as 1,100, 1,200, 900 is a bit bad, but sometimes we still have to go this low because you've already been eating that low. But healthily speaking, we should ideally getting women around the 1,500 all the way up to, again, the 2,500, 2,800 mark, depending on how often that individual is training. So you're trying to train your metabolism to get used to these numbers. Now, what do these numbers look like? How easy is that slide? So on the right hand side, we have 1,500 calories, which is an example of a meal plan of women that are likely to be in the fat loss space. Pretty much what were you on, Jody? 1,200, 1,400? Yeah, 1,400, yeah. So for example, this is what 1,500 would look like. For breakfast, you'd have 2 slices of toast with a banana sliced up and 2 tablespoons of peanut butter. It's already a bigger breakfast than some of all of you. Then for lunch, you'd probably have 100 grams worth of cooked chicken breast. You would have a cup of rice and a cup of green veggies, maybe like a chicken salad or something like that with a bit of drizzle. And then you would, maybe your afternoon snack, you come home, you just have a protein shake with some water or some coconut water and just 10 grams of almonds. And then for dinner, you probably make a beef stir fry with about 150 grams of beef mince, a cup of rice, 100 grams of green veggies. That's 1,500 calories. That's like the smallest amount of calories. Now, just based on that idea alone, how many, you don't have to throw yourself under the bus, but have many of you already been eating less than that for at least a regular amount of time? Many of you, I'm getting some shakes, some sort of, okay. So some people have, some people haven't. So if you have been eating less than that and you have a fat loss goal, your objective is actually get yourself used to annihilating 1500 and your body's happily sitting in that weight, and then that gives you, you're in a space where you're metabolically nourished, and then that's when you can start training hard. Still train hard, but yeah, you can just be quite stressed when you're not eating it. The body can be quite stressed, and nothing happens when the body's stressed, yeah, which is what we talked about in our stress slide. So you want to be nourished. If you are aiming for 2800 calories, for example, breakfast is 2 slices of toast, 3 large eggs, 100 grams of bacon, a cup of spinach and a tomato. Then you're going to have a protein smoothie with a cup of berries, half a banana, scoop of protein, tablespoon of peanut butter, tablespoon of honey, and half a litre of coconut milk. Then for lunch, you're going to have some grilled 200-gram chicken breast with a cup of rice and a cup of green veggies. So that's basically a chicken and rice and vegetable dish. And then in the arvo, you're going to have protein shake with 20 grams of almonds. And then for dinner, you can still have your beef stir fry, but it's double the size. So 200 grams of beef mince, cup of rice, 100 grams of green veggies. In the middle there, we can have a look at 2200. So 2200 is peanut butter on toast with, so 2 slices of toast, 1 banana, 2 tablespoons of peanut butter, 2 tablespoons of honey. Lunch is 200 grams of chicken breast with a cup of rice and a cup of green veggies. You've got a protein shake and nut with 200 grams of almonds, and then same again, 200 grams of beef mince, a cup of rice, 100 grams of green veggies. So generally what we find when we present this slide is most people are likely under-eating, or at least under-eating protein. We illustrate that because, again, we've found that if we have this function first mentality as opposed to the traditional aesthetic focus first, which leads us to eating less, if we can turn you into, I just want to call you animals, if we can get you eating a lot, energized a lot, training a lot, even after the challenge, these preceding months you can continue gaining momentum, and that's when the best results come.
Question.
Yes.
Is that cooked or raw?
Cooked. In this example, it's cooked. She's asked the what's your name? Sorry.
Nidla.
Was it?
Nidla.
How do I say that? You give me a hard.
Call me Nick.
Nick. Okay. Nick. Yeah. Call it Nick. So Nick's just asked me, is that cooked or uncooked? In this example, it's cooked. So when you are dealing with MyFitnessPal, going through it, sometimes you're trying to figure out how many calories are in a food. It'll actually say if it's cooked or uncooked. For example, something like rice, you're mixing water with it and then you're like boiling it, and then that weight profile is going to change afterwards. So when you're dealing with foods, you just pick whichever one you want to work with and just work your numbers over that. Generally, you find that you're working with cooked weights because that's really what you're consuming. Yeah? Does that make sense? Any other questions on that? Yes?
The toast and rice, like light brown wholemeal.
Oh, okay. So this is I was waiting for a question of this nature. So personally, like wholemeal sourdough, but the point is, like, I don't want to give an answer because that's a great question. It's a valid question, but it's a detail that matters later down the line. So I put it in the umbrella of like details that don't matter yet, or later details. So Alex asked what type of bread, and at this stage, it's not really a matter of what type of bread. It's anyone who's skipping breakfast has to stop right now. Anyone who's not organising themselves on a Sunday has to start doing so this Sunday, which is tomorrow. Anyone who hasn't done it in a while should probably have a think about it today and even do a dummy run. Anyone who loves meat needs to get on a barbecue or clean your barbecue, because in my opinion, barbecue is one of the most, it's just a superior way to meal prep because there's less cleaning, you can be outside, you can cook a lot, and barbecue food, it's just brilliant. Vegetables, meat, whatever. Yeah, again, we're going to go through more on the Sunday, on next Saturday. But we're focusing on the habit of eating regularly, the habit of getting our food organised. And if you've been under eating, you're training your metabolism as of today, tomorrow, to get regular again. Does that make sense? We want our clock to be rolling. Any other questions? Sourdough is my favourite bread, especially not from Coles or Woolies, you know, like a bakery. Yeah. Yeah, I won't go down that rabbit hole. Okay, so just another little thing is basically everyone is familiar or has heard the term macronutrients and calories and protein, fats and carbohydrates. Hopefully, when we're talking about calories, we're only ever addressing protein, fats and carbohydrates, and they are the 3 subcategories of calories. Yeah, all protein, all fats and all carbohydrates have a calorie value to them, and so you train yourself to get familiar with your hand being your measuring cup, because then you can start to guesstimate when you're out and about, and if you're going on at a restaurant or something, you can even start to kind of have an idea of what you're close to doing and what you're close to using. Because especially for your first 12 to 24 months, you don't have to get granular with macronutrients and the numbers. You've got to get granular with the consistency of your routine, which is why the hand follows us. 1 serving of protein is approximately 1 size of palm. So that could be like 1 or 2 eggs, depending on the size of them. It could be a small chicken thigh. It could be like half a chicken breast. 2 palms would be 2 chicken breasts. Oh, well, sorry, 2 palms would be a whole chicken breast. A serving of vegetables is 1 fist. So you try and give yourself 1 or 2 fistfuls of vegetables in many of your meals. With your serving of carbs, just consider it like a cup's worth. So that's like an apple, a cup of berries, or a cup of rice, or a cup of mash, or cooked potatoes. That makes sense? That becomes your 1 cup. And your fats are denser in calories, like your butters and your nuts, and so you generally have thumbs worth. So I'm having that's like a couple of nuts, or about a tablespoon of peanut butter, or a tablespoon of coconut oil. So what you're trying to do over time is you're trying to mentally calibrate I think usually I need like 6 palms of protein per day, and I'm usually about 5 cups. As you go through this, you're going to start naturally calibrating this. Generally speaking, if you're having 3 meals a day, males are 2-2-2. So two protein, 2 fist vegetables, and 2 carbs, and then again maybe even 2 fats, and then generally females are 1-1-1. And then your snacks in between those meals are the things that, again, those nuances that get you closer to what suits you. So everyone generally across the board we try and encourage people having breakfast, lunch and dinner, so that you have a regular metabolism, you have regular nourishment, you have a decent clock. And then it's your 4th and your 5th meal, like your smoko morning tea, or your afternoon snacks, or your pre and post workout meals. Those are the snacks for people on low calories. People on the higher calories, they're like a full meal again, a full meal for you. Yeah, I just point you out all the time. So start to just calibrate what this is for you. Examples of what protein is or are: meat, beef, chicken, fish, eggs, protein shakes, protein powders, really great for smoothies, especially getting extra nutrients and just quick calories in as well. Carbohydrates examples are forms of rice, or white brown basmati rice, fruit, and potatoes as well. Potatoes and also peas and corn are common vegetable carbohydrates. Common fats are all of your nuts, almonds, cashews, walnuts, and then your nut butters, almond, cashew, peanut, including avocado is technically high in fat as well. Tree fruit, coconut, olive, avocados. This SMA nutrition system is it's too big of a document actually. We're trying to figure out, I haven't touched it for a while, but it's downloadable via the app. The app is the SMA app. When you go into your dashboard on your homepage, just underneath your main stuff, you'll have a couple of icons, and you'll see a dinner plate icon or a knife and fork icon. And if you tap that, it just takes you to a download link, and it allows you to download just the PDF. But it's very long because there's recipes in there. There's even a section on how to cook on a barbecue chicken, whether you need it or not. But there is stuff there. And there's also, whether you want to nerd out or not, the first half is like, if you want to become your own personal trainer and you really want to understand how to write your own meal plan and do all the math, that section's in there if you want it. Yeah, so if you want to nerd out and geek out, everything's in there. And again, we're going to elaborate on the important parts next Saturday as well. To kind of land the plane and summarize everything, your action steps are as follows. Make a routine and a plan for always eating breakfast, lunch and dinner. Do a grocery haul immediately or this weekend. I feel like I'm in 2026 now. I'm ordering mine. I get my Coles delivered now. So every Saturday I do this, and then Sunday it arrives. I used to go to the shops every single Sunday and wander around, but as Nav knows, I just chat forever and it takes me too long. But find a routine where on a Saturday or a Sunday, you have sat down, at least for a moment, and been like, what am I going to do with my life, and what have I got coming up this week? And you have to anticipate those moments where you know you're going to eat food, and you have to anticipate those moments where you know it's going to be difficult to get food in, and you do what is necessary. You prepare it the night before, or you organise, or you just make a 1,000-calorie smoothie and just take it on the road with you if you can't get to a microwave or whatever. But just no cheese toasties, and I used to love those cheese Krankskis from the Servo and stuff, and oh, they were the best, but no more, yeah? Be organised, stay out of chaos, be in order. Number 3, start monitoring and tracking your food with the SMA app. Navarro and I are here till 11 a.m. today, maybe even 11:02 if you ask nicely. So if you're having any technical difficulties, go to Nav and not me. No, I'm kidding. You can ask us and we can help you make sure you understand how to monitor and track food with the SMA app or MyFitnessPal, if you know what MyFitnessPal is. If you have dabbled with MyFitnessPal, we have MyFitnessPal Premium. So it's the same thing, it's just integrated into the back end of our app. Take photos, possibly track calories and macros. That is for those who find it an issue of tracking food constantly, which we do understand why that's. Ideally, you're tracking your food regularly, but if you're not, you're doing something similar because we need information and order. The 2 apps that you should have already set up is Gym Master, which is those who are who are doing group fitness classes. Is this my slide or your slide? I think the next one's mine anyway. Okay. Yeah. This is my last slide, everyone. Make sure you have Gym Master set up if you are interested in doing the classes. If you have any issues with that, let us know after this. And then the SMA app, which I'm 90% sure every single one of you is on, but the SMA app is where you log your habits, is where you put in your training programs in there if you need a training program, because not everyone's training out on the floor, and that's where everything is. And the group chat as well. So thank you for your ears and your eyes.